I'm going to talk about how people separate each other, separate out into groups, and how these different groups have a very hard time understanding each other. And in truth, in many ways, I don't think they are capable of understanding each other. Now, let me first start with this. Let's do the traditional class warfare thing. The rich versus the poor. Now, here's the basic economics of why that happens. Rich people don't generally hang out with poor people, and poor people don't generally hang out with rich people for a very basic reason, and it isn't because the rich people hate the poor person, or the poor person hates the rich person. It's not because of that. It's because of a simple fact that for everybody out there, everybody, no matter what income level you are at, you have differing levels of disposable income that you're comfortable spending without thinking about it. And for the poor person, that might be, if he makes $100 a week, he might spend $1 that week without really thinking about it. I'll buy a candy bar for $1, and doesn't really think about that. It might be even less if you're even poorer than that. For the rich person, that percentage, that's always a percentage of your income, that amount that you're willing to spend without really thinking about it, gets higher. The percentage stays the same, but because your amount of income goes up, the amount you're willing to spend that fits in that percentage of disposable income that you don't think about grows. So for a middle income person, it might be you might spend $100 and not really worry too much about it in a month or whatever. To spend $100 of disposable income or $200 of disposable income in a month. And a person who's a millionaire, it might be $1,000 in a month. A person who is a multimillionaire, that might be tens of thousands in a month. It may be, in a case if you're a multi-billionaire, it might be $1 million in a month. You just don't think about it. It just wouldn't dawn on you as something that's important. And how does this separate people? It separates people because when you have that kind of disposable income, it starts giving you different levels of comfort, things you can get that when you want to do something fun, things you can do. And if you have $1 million worth of disposable income, going out to a nice restaurant's no big deal. $100 dinner, you don't even think about that. $200 dinners, you can go out every night and wouldn't really bother you too much. So on and so forth. Therefore, you gain a different level of comfortable environment, what you deem to be a comfortable environment. And the end result is, when you get out with your friends, you say to your friends, come along, let's all go out. Let's do something. Your idea of doing something might cost everybody there going with you $1,000 to $10,000, maybe even $1 million, depending on what level of income you have. Whereas if you had a poor friend that's coming along with you, they can't afford that. And if they do go with you, they're in a position where they're not able to spend that money. They can't, and they're depending upon you to pay for them, which means you're constantly giving them money, which doesn't feel good, to constantly help somebody else along. Does that make sense? Now, the end result, the truth of the matter is the percentage of disposable income that people have as they get older, actually the percentage drops. The really successful people have a very small percentage of, quote, disposable income that they're willing to spend. You'll hear examples of a millionaire who doesn't buy a brand new car, he buys a hail-damaged car and has it fixed up. That type of thing, the Warren Buffetts of the world, the Bill Gates of the world and such, where they don't really ramp up their spending, but they still have a lot of potential disposable money. But that percentage is still higher than what a poor person would have. This creates an illusion of separate classes. And believe it or not, there's more than just simply the poor, middle class, and rich. That simplistic way of thinking. You have gradations amongst that. You have lower poor, you have poor, you have upper poor, you have lower middle class, you have middle class, you have lower middle class, you have slightly upper middle, you have the millionaires, you have the 10 millionaires, you have the 100 millionaires, you have the half a billionaires, you have the billionaires, you have the multi-billionaires, you have that kind of dynamic. Not all rich people can hang out together, believe it or not. A lot of millionaires are considered to be poor by the people who are billionaires. They can't go out with the billionaires because the billionaires' disposable income is so much greater than their millionaire income will allow them to go out and do. They can't get on that private yacht and sail around the world because they simply don't have money. It creates a sense of separation, and that sense of separation creates anxiety. You make the assumption that the person who is taking that cruise around the world feels superior to you because you can't do that, and you envy them doing that. And that's what politicians sink their teeth into when they do class warfare. They go, look at those rich people. I may be rich, but I understand you, and I will help you by getting them and taking their money and giving it to you. Don't you want that? And since there's more of you, and we're a democracy, I can do that. I'll get the money to you. Well, a cut for me, mind you, but I'll get the money for you as long as you promise to vote to keep me in office. That sort of thing. Socially speaking, similar events happen with relationships. Single people cannot comprehend what's involved and what it is to be a married person. People without children cannot comprehend what it's like to have children because life takes certain patterns when you get into certain environments. A married person has to consider what his wife's doing. He can't just go. A couple with children have to consider that child before doing anything, so they have to change what they do. They can't go see a horror flick. They can't do some of the stuff that they might have done when they were single, because they have a child with them, and they can't take the child to these things. They have to worry about setting an example to the child. They have to worry about disciplining the child. They have to worry about all these things that the single person or the married couple without children don't have to worry about. So there's that disconnect. They can't connect to them. And that creates an environment where one feels uncomfortable in the presence of the other. Anyways. And that's basically what I'm talking about, the differentiating, separation of people into different groups and how we really don't understand each other and cannot understand each other. Thank you very much and have yourself a good day and God bless.